Paul Pogba has been provisionally suspended after failing an Italian anti-doping test. Juventus had beaten Udinese 3-0. This was just last month. I mean, the downfall of Paul Pogba, are we witnessing it in full flow? Could it get any lower? According to NADO, Paul Pogba's suspension comes after testosterone was detected in the test. This is according to Italy's national anti-doping organisation, NADO. Let's get more on this. Our European football expert, of course, Julien Laurent, a man who knows Paul Pogba, of course, World Cup winner Paul Pogba. Julien, good morning. I asked the question there, and I'll ask it to you. Are we witnessing the ongoing downfall of Paul Pogba?
Good morning, guys. I mean, what we have to say, Jim, is that the last 5 years have been horrible for him, really, since the World Cup. You mentioned the World Cup in 2018 in Russia. After that, between the former United, the injuries, the move to Juventus that didn't really work out so far. It's only been a year, but he's hardly played. Plus, of course, and we talked about it a lot on the show together, what happened in his private life with his own family and the racketing that he'd been the victim of, really, from his own brothers. I think all of that, Paul Pogba is not really a footballer anymore. Yes, he played a little bit so far this season. I mean, the irony is that the game where he was tested positive after didn't even come off the bench, that first game against Udinese. But now he risked a 4-year suspension. 4 years. I mean, we're waiting for the sample B to come back and see if that's positive or not. And after that, I guess he will have to put some sort of defenses together. We heard in the news, and Rafaela Pimenta, who is his agent, that you and I know really well, Jim, and Simon as well, have been telling us that he never wanted to do anything wrong. Okay, maybe, but she was not very convincing, I thought, in her statements in what she told us yesterday. So we will have to see. But knowing him the way I do, I find really hard to believe. And testosterone is it's really rare for footballers to get caught with testosterone. It's not really a doping product that you would associate with football. It's more cycling back in the early 2000s and things like that, but not so much for football. But this is where he's at right now.
It's sad, Simon, isn't it? I often think about Pogba. I remember being at Carrington many years ago and seeing him that day. And Mino Raiola was around the place and was going to be negotiating with the club that day too. I often think if history had been different and Pogba had stayed under Sir Alex at United first time around, his career, although it's been incredible, of course, he's a World Cup winner, but his career could have been totally different and all the better.
Possibly. I mean, his career was at stellar heights for some period of time. I have to say, without wanting to be mean-spirited, sorrow isn't the emotion that automatically comes to the fore when I think of Pogba. You know, I think that Pogba has had many opportunities in life and at Manchester United to change the narrative. He chose not to. For whatever reason, whether it was simply a bad purchase from Manchester United and it wasn't fit for purpose in terms of what they bought and what they wanted to utilise him for was the wrong fit. But I wouldn't wish upon him the challenges that he's had in his family life with the duplicity and downright treachery of his brother. I wouldn't wish that upon him. But testosterone is used in a variety of different places. Why would you use testosterone? Muscle rebuilding, bone density. If you're spending a lot of time out of injury, wouldn't testosterone be a drug that would help you to rehabilitate quicker if indeed that first sample comes back as a proven challenge, if the B sample comes back the same way? It's concerning because we're hearing just a little bit too much now about drug taking in one particular sport, in boxing, and now all of a sudden in the biggest sport in the world we're now hearing about a player. But no, I don't mean to be mean-spirited, but my takeaway isn't one of sorrow for Pogba. He ploughed his trough, he rowed his boat, he made the decisions that he made. He moved away from Manchester United because he didn't want to operate in a certain way, and I think he drove Ferguson mad at the time. He goes away, he plays in Juventus, he's afforded a lot of luxuries, and the team was built around him and all the things that he wouldn't do. And can you imagine Pogba, someone like Pogba, playing for Pep Guardiola, where he thinks he's got a choice about how he's going to play? Because Pep Guardiola's mentality is that I will improve the players and they will fall round to my way of thinking rather than yours.
Well, exactly. I think what Simon says, it sounds harsh, Julian, but I think a lot of people will be on the same page as Simon with those views.
Yeah, completely. And I can understand. And obviously, as you know, while he was at United, there was a lot of controversy a bit, or there was a lot of things going on with football pundits, people like us commenting on his games that he was not too happy with. I remember seeing him as a 14-year-old in Paris, and he was the best thing I've ever seen really at that age in football, he was so good. He was already better than anybody else. And at that time, you thought that the career would be extraordinary. And when he went to United at 16, you thought, okay, it's normal because he's the best in his age group in the whole world, probably for the best club in the world as well at the time. And yet it didn't really happen like that, apart from the World Cup, really. So it's sad. I can understand where Simon is coming from, of course. Let's see what happens now. But he's 30. He will turn 31 in March. He's closest to the end than to the beginning. And this is the last thing, really, after the years of troubles that he had on and off the pitch, all those injuries, all the doubts, even thought about retiring. To have this now on top of everything else it's really a very, very challenging, tough time for him. And I don't know, even if he's cleared, I don't know how he will recover from it.
Well, as you rightly say, Julian, if the worst was to happen for him, and if he was to be banned for 4 years, if they proved he took the substance intentionally, of course, he'd be coming back at 34. You would have to think his best years are behind him, very much so at that stage.
Yeah, I think so. Unfortunately, that would be the case. On his day, incredible player. We've said that. The World Cup he had in 2018 was one of the best individual World Cups that you could have seen in recent years. But we haven't seen enough in the last 5 years, for sure, in that downfall that we mentioned at the beginning. And then if you, on top of that, again, add 4 years without football, I think it will be over for him. It will be heartbroken for sure. I think what happened off the pitch with his family that we've mentioned already was almost the final point, to the point that he went, I don't want to play football anymore. I don't want to earn money. I want to be left in peace and do my own thing. To have that now, and if he was suspended for 4 years, that would be the end. We saw Palomino, who played for Atalanta last season, fighting it off, and in the end being cleared after a few months of that kind of battle with the anti-doping agency in Italy. So it's still possible that actually that it would be okay. And like Simon said, you can find that testosterone in a lot of food complements, for example, or even some stuff that makes your sex life better. Like there's loads of places and things that you could have testosterone without wanting to take it to feel better. So he will have to prove his innocence, that's for sure. That's where he's at right now. But that's another hell of a battle ahead of him.
Julian, thank you very much indeed. Julian Laurent is speaking to us there. Simon, do you think this is the exception and not the rule? Or what do you think?
I don't know why there would be additional or testosterone in his system. I just gave an example of what testosterone is used for, not Julian's example of improving one's sex life, but improving muscle mass and muscle rebuild, which if you're a player that's suffering from injuries, would be something that would be appealing if you were that mindset. But I think we've got to wait. Like I said yesterday, I cannot make the argument that I think that we should hear both sides of a debate and not judge people in the here and now until we've seen nuance and context, and then go bang. I tell you what, because Pogba isn't one of my favourite players, he's done. I know I would rather see the B sample come back and hear the explanation rather than just go, I tell you what. But if he is caught in this trap and he is guilty of what they're alleging, then in 4 years he's gone, he's done, he's finished. Maybe in 4 years' time he can rock up to that wonderful Saudi league that you think is going to be so prevalent.
Okay. What we do know is, of course, in the short term, and maybe
Simon Jordan looks like he's not really smiling with Paul Pogba. It looks like he's caring so much. He's showing more any interest of showing any excitement into this. But one thing that I really enjoyed with what he said was, or one thing that I take really and actually hold on to, is the fact that he is understanding that we have to wait first and get both sides of the story before we can even say something about this guy. Because when you really think about it, when you go in depth with this, Paul Pogba, there are so many things that are happening when it comes to this drug testing and stuff. It could be that maybe after the second party we might find that he's actually negative and it was a false positive, and that could happen. Or maybe it could be that maybe some of the things he was using in terms of recovery, maybe his doctors were encouraging him to use, could have maybe triggered that part. So it's a sensitive topic, and for people to just come out and really imagine the worst, I feel like it's not fair. It's not fair on Pogba, and it's also not fair to so many people who are into these things. So let's give it time. Let's get more information into this, what's happening with Paul Pogba and what led into this, before we jump into conclusion. Because he is a good footballer. But someone was something that was asked by White, which was very important, where he asked, does this look like the Pogba, you'll be able to resurrect his career again? And as things stands at this moment, the things are going way down than that's supposed to go up. It happens in football, but hey, it looks like his best days are behind him. France World Cup, he was one of the best, and it looks like he has never been back. So many injuries after injuries, and when he's supposed to be recovering, he's being found of these things, and they're saying he could be going for 2 or 4 years. There are just so many things that are happening on his career at this moment, and it feels like as much as we want him to come back, as much as we are hoping to see the better of Pogba, to see what we got to see from him in that French World Cup, it's gonna take some time, and it's really, really painful when you think about it. But Pogba is one of the players that we have loved and we have really enjoyed to see what he's capable of doing. And they're talking of also that he can enhance in terms of the sex things to make your sex life better. It could also cause those things. So there are so many things that are coming out. But as we stand at this moment, as things stands right now, we still don't know the entire truth where things stands. And until we get the second dose and it proves that there is that, it's gonna be a hard come. He might battle it with court cases and try to fight for him, but man, we hope that it turns out to be better than the worst we are seeing at this moment. You won't expect something like this in football, maybe in boxing, maybe in what, but not in football. But what I'm saying, that we cannot jump into conclusion. Whether we like it or not, we should not also even showing the emotions of what we think about the matter until we get the full evidence. And what we are being told, we can only start doing that after the second test has been done. And if it tends to be positive, that's when we might actually see that there is a problem, or we hear both sides of the story. So let's wait, let's give this time. It's a sensitive story, especially to Pogba. Let's give it time and let's get information before we say crazy things. That's what I believe, and I hope we stop this media world where people are proven guilty before they are even guilty. Let's get the full thing, and actually when we get the full thing, that's when we will make our decisions, if our decisions even matters in the case. So do me a favor, click the like button and subscribe to Connect. I'm out. Peace.